No,
She
you're not
hasn't
so bad
laughed since her
yourself,
brother
Ace.
died, until his
It's
stupid
not so
joke cracks
bad?
her open. The
I thought he
sound
was
terrifies
charming.
her more than the grief ever
It's
did.
okay.
When he
You're
quietly
safe here with
asks,
me.
"Who
I
are you
know.
apologizing to for
It's
surviving?"
just
she can't
a
answer.
lot.
Before we dive in, make sure to hit subscribe, tap like, and share this video. The more voices we reach, the louder these stories become. And drop your city in the comments. Let's see where love finds us. The first thing anyone ever noticed about her was her body. Thick hips that filled out her black pencil skirt, soft thighs that brushed when she walked, a waist that curved instead of cinched, breasts that made blouses sit just a little too tight. Her hair, honey blonde and wavy, fell over one shoulder like she'd stepped out of some glossy magazine ad for perfume and bad decisions. The second thing they used to notice was her laugh. Not anymore. Now, when Emily Rhodes walked into the glass office tower downtown every morning at 8:32, eyes slid over her curves, then bounced away, met with the cold, polite nod she wore like armor. Her lips were painted a deep berry red, but they rarely parted for more than a clipped "good morning" or "excuse me." The echo of her heels on marble was louder than anything she said. She swiped her access card, the gate clicked open, and she stepped into the lobby with its high ceiling and brushed steel elevators. The building smelled like coffee, copier toner, and the faint lemon cleaner the night janitors used. Once upon a time, she'd made jokes to them about starting a petition for a new scent. Now, she barely made eye contact. Emily headed toward the elevators, hugging her laptop bag against her chest like a shield. On the far wall, a TV looped the company's latest promotional video. Smiling faces, happy customers, taglines about building joy. The irony didn't even sting anymore. She'd grown past that, into a kind of numbness that felt safer than pain. "Morning, Miss Rhodes," the receptionist called. Emily lifted a hand without looking back. "Morning." She pressed the elevator button and watched the numbers above the door crawl down from 24 to G. Her reflection in the brushed metal showed a woman who looked expensive and untouchable, fitted black dress hugging full hips, cream blazer smoothing everything into lines of power, lipstick perfect, eyeliner sharp. She looked like a woman nothing could break. The doors slid open with a soft chime. There was only one other person inside, a tall black man in a navy work jacket, sleeves pushed up to reveal forearms dusted with faint paint and grease. He had broad shoulders, a tool bag at his feet, and a smile that appeared so easily it caught her off guard. He held the doors with one long arm. "You coming in, or just admiring the craftsmanship?" His voice was warm and low, threaded with humor like it had lived there all its life. Emily blinked, just a second too slow, and stepped inside. "Sorry, long weekend." He pressed the button for the 20th floor, her floor, before she could lift her hand. "Got you. You knew my floor?" she asked, frowning. He nodded toward the small badge clipped to her blazer. "Says Rhodes Marketing, floor 20. I'm good with names." His eyes dipped to her ID, then flicked quickly back up to her face, not lingering anywhere they shouldn't. And floors. The doors slid shut. The elevator hummed upward. He leaned back against the mirrored wall, crossing his ankles with a casual ease she hadn't felt in years. His eyes were a deep, warm brown, laugh lines already etched at the corners, even while his face was resting. "Jordan Hayes," he added, tapping his own badge. "Facilities. Not as glamorous as marketing, but hey, someone's got to keep the lights from exploding." Exploding. The word slipped out before she could stop it. He widened his eyes dramatically. "Sure. You never heard the legend of the killer fluorescence of level 12? Took out 3 interns and a very innocent ficus." Her mouth twitched. It startled her. The almost smile felt loud in the small space, like a crack in glass. She pressed her lips together, shutting it down. Her stomach did that old nervous flip. Guilt, sharp and immediate, like she'd done something wrong. The urge to laugh was dangerous. It belonged to a version of herself who didn't exist anymore. Jordan kept going, unbothered. Had to give the ficus a full hero send-off. Tiny flag, tiny trumpet, the whole deal. "That's ridiculous," she said, but it came out softer than she meant it to. "Ridiculous things happen," he said easily. "Keeps the universe from getting bored." The elevator dinged at floor 9, then 10. The numbers climbed. She stared straight ahead, focusing on the doors. "Well, the universe can skip my floor." Jordan tilted his head, studying her profile. "Is that a request or an order?" "Whichever one gets me through the day faster." He let out a low whistle. Rough morning already? It's not even 9. Rough morning, rough year, rough 2 years. The memories surged up as if summoned by the weight of his question. Hospital antiseptic, the beep, beep, beep of a heart monitor flattening into one long awful sound, her mother's cry folding in half, the doctor's gentle hand on her shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Miss Rhodes." She shoved the images down, locking them in the box where she kept everything that hurt. She'd learned since that night that if she kept things tight enough, clothes, schedules, the set of her jaw, nothing could spill out. "I'm fine," she said, the words automatic and brittle. Jordan didn't argue. He just watched her for a moment, as if he could see the storm behind her calm expression. But if he saw anything, he didn't push. He reached into his pocket instead. "Hold this." He handed her a bright yellow sticky note with something scribbled on it in messy block letters. She frowned at it. "What is this?" "Emergency equipment," he said solemnly, "in case the universe ignores your order and does something stupid anyway." She glanced down and read the note. It said, "If found staring into abyss, return to coffee machine, JH." Her chest did that weird, painful squeeze again, part annoyance, part something else. "You made a label, for me?" He shrugged, a smile tugging at his mouth. "For anyone, but you happen to be here first. Consider yourself the test pilot." "I don't need." The elevator dinged, floor 20. He stepped forward and held his hand near the door open button, not pressing it yet. "You don't have to need it. Just don't throw it away today. Deal?" His eyes met hers, warm and steady, not pitying, not invasive, just present. Emily's fingers tightened around the sticky note. The paper was warm from his hand. "Fine," she said, "one day." He grinned, the kind of grin that felt like sunlight through a dirty window. "I'll take it. Welcome to Monday, Miss Rhodes. Try not to let the abyss win." He stepped aside, letting her walk out first. As she moved past him, she caught a faint whiff of his scent. Clean cotton and something warm, like cedar or spice. It snagged on her senses unexpectedly, anchoring her for a second. At her desk, she tossed her bag down, powered on her computer, and stared at the sticky note still in her hand. In the before, she would have laughed out loud, maybe stuck it to her monitor and dragged half the floor over to see it. In the before, she would have gone back downstairs on her break just to tease him. In the after, she was a woman who barely spoke unless she had to, who didn't go out, didn't risk connection, didn't give the universe any more openings to hurt her. She should throw it away. Instead, her hand moved on its own, pressing the note gently to the bottom corner of her monitor. The yellow square glowed against the grey plastic and the reflection of her own carefully blank face. "If found staring into abyss, return to coffee machine." "Ridiculous," she muttered. Around 11, the copy chief stopped by her desk, dropping a stack of briefs and a tight smile. "We need revisions on the holiday campaign headlines. The client wants them more joyful. By EOD. More joyful." Emily nodded, her throat tight. "Got it." When he walked away, she stared at the words "building joy together" on the mock-up in front of her and felt something bitter rise up her chest. She'd once been good at this, finding light, twisting it into language that made people feel something. Now she wrote joy like it was a foreign language she used to speak as a child and had forgotten. Her eyes drifted to the sticky note again. If found, staring into abyss. She didn't know when she stood up. Her legs just carried her, almost on autopilot, to the break room at the end of the hallway. The coffee machine hissed and gurgled, spitting out bitter, burnt-smelling liquid into a row of corporate mugs. And there he was. Jordan stood on a small step stool, one big hand steadying himself on the cabinet while he adjusted the ceiling panel above the lights. His jacket had ridden up, exposing a strip of dark brown skin at his lower back. There was a smudge of white paint on his jaw, and he was humming some old R&B song under his breath, body unconsciously moving with the rhythm. She stopped in the doorway, suddenly aware of her own heartbeat. He glanced down and saw her, then broke into that same easy grin. "Well, look at that. The system works." "What system?" she asked, more defensive than she meant to. He pointed his screwdriver at her. "Note works. Abyss 0, coffee machine 1. She should have rolled her eyes and walked away. Instead, against everything she'd promised herself, Emily felt the corner of her mouth pull up again, just a little. Just enough that if she wasn't careful, it might turn into something real. And that scared her more than anything. Emily tried not to go back to the coffee machine the next day. She made it to 10:47 a.m. before the headache started behind her eyes, the kind born from too many open tabs and not enough oxygen. The holiday campaign brief sat in front of her, mocking her with words like joyful, light-hearted, and festive connection. She'd written 3 headline options already. All of them felt like lies. Her gaze slid, almost against her will, to the yellow sticky note on her monitor. If found staring into abyss, return to coffee machine. Fine, she muttered, you win. When she pushed open the break room door, she stopped short. Jordan was there, again. Today his navy work jacket was unzipped over a dark grey t-shirt that clung to his chest and broad shoulders. His tool bag sat open on the counter, a nest of screwdrivers and wires and neatly labelled plastic boxes. He was standing with his back to the room, tinkering with the temperamental vending machine, one hand braced against its side. Don't even think about it, he warned, without turning around. This thing bites. I'm not afraid of a snack machine, Emily said. I've seen worse. He turned then, eyebrows lifting. His gaze flicked over her fitted burgundy dress, the curve of her hips, the tight line of her mouth. Something like recognition moved through his eyes, as if he could see the tension coiled under her skin. Morning, Miss Rhodes. His voice softened on the greeting. Abyss got you again? She moved to the coffee machine instead of answering, slipped a paper cup into place and punched the button for dark roast, like she was starting a war. The machine sputtered to life. It's Emily, she said after a moment. Ms. Rhodes makes me feel like a bank manager. Jordan grinned. Emily it is, and for the record, I would absolutely trust you with my savings. That's a bad financial decision. I make those too. He nudged the vending machine with his hip. It beeped angrily. See? Exhibit A. The coffee machine wheezed and spat out a splash of bitter liquid that nearly missed the cup. Emily snatched it back just in time, warm droplets splattering over her fingers. Damn it, she hissed, flinching. Jordan was beside her before she could shake the drops off. He caught her wrist gently, his fingers wrapping easily around her smaller hand. You burn yourself? He asked. The contact shocked her, skin to skin, warm and solid. It had been so long since someone touched her without a clipboard or a sign here attached. I'm fine, she said automatically, trying to pull back. He didn't hold her. He just tipped her hand up, inspecting the faint redness on her knuckles. You say that a lot, don't you? She swallowed. It's usually easier than explaining the opposite. Something flickered in his eyes. Not pity. She hated pity, but understanding. Familiar pain recognizing itself. He stepped back then, giving her space. Hold on. He dug around in his tool bag and came up with a tiny beat-up tube of burn cream. Perks of working with angry wiring and coffee machines that think they're lava fields. You carry a first aid kit in your toolbox? She asked. He shrugged, unscrewing the cap. I used to forget, once. Now I don't. The way he said once made something in her chest tighten. Here. He held the tube out. You can do it if you want. No pressure. She took it, their fingers brushing. Her skin tingled where they touched. As she dabbed cream on her knuckles, he leaned back against the counter, watching her with that same open, easy gaze. So, he said, on a scale from 1 to staring into the void, how's your morning? She snorted before she could stop herself. It was a small sound, half amusement, half exhale. Depends. Does screaming into a pillow have a number? Ah, that's like an 8.5, he said thoughtfully. 9 if the pillow's embroidered with inspirational quotes. Her mouth curved. Live, laugh, love. Jordan groaned dramatically. Those 3 words have done more damage than most wars. She laughed. It burst out of her before she had time to choke it down, short, sharp, and real. It shook her shoulders, softened her face, lit her eyes for a heartbeat. Then it scared her. The sound dropped off as if someone had cut a wire. Her smile collapsed. Her hand went to her mouth, fingers pressing hard against her lips like she could shove the laugh back in. Jordan's expression shifted, something like awe and worry mixing together. He saw it. She knew he did. Hey, he said softly. That wasn't illegal or anything. It's fine. Her voice came out tight, embarrassingly shaky. She turned away, pretending to fuss with the coffee machine. I should get back to work. She started for the door. Emily. His tone stopped her. Not sharp, not commanding. Just steady enough to make her pause with her hand on the handle. She didn't turn around. Couldn't. What? You know laughing doesn't betray anyone, right? He said quietly. It doesn't mean you forgot. The room went very still. Her heart slammed against her ribs so loudly she thought he might hear it. Excuse me? She whispered. You looked like you were about to apologize, he said, to somebody for smiling for half a second. She turned then, anger and panic flaring together. You don't know anything about who I'm apologizing to. You're right, he said immediately. I don't. I'm not trying to read your whole life from one coffee spill. His brown eyes were calm, gentle. I just know that the first time I laughed after my sister died, I spent the rest of the day feeling like a traitor. The word sister hit her like a physical thing. Jordan watched her reaction carefully, as if ready to back off if he'd pushed too far. I'm sorry if that's too much. I get that look, the one you had. Emily's fingers tightened around the paper cup until it crumpled slightly. Hot coffee sloshed against the lid. What happened? She heard herself ask. He exhaled slowly, shoulders dropping. She was 22. Car accident, texting, wet road, drunk driver, all the horrible cliché ingredients. One night she was sending me memes about my terrible taste in music. The next. He trailed off, jaw clenching. Anyway, for months I thought if I laughed at anything, it meant I didn't love her enough. Her stomach twisted. Hospitals, monitors, her brother's hand limp in hers, the way the world had kept spinning outside that window like nothing had happened. What changed? She whispered. Jordan's gaze drifted past her, like he was seeing a different room entirely. One of the old guys on my crew slipped on a spill and landed on his ass in the middle of the lobby. He was fine, just bruised ego, but the sound he made. Jordan actually chuckled at the memory. It was like someone stepped on a trombone. I laughed so hard I almost dropped my toolbox. He looked back at her. And then I cried, he admitted. Right there in the supply closet. Big, ugly, snotty cry, because I thought, if I'm laughing, maybe I'm moving on. And if I'm moving on, I'm leaving her behind. Emily's throat burned. What made you stop thinking that? She asked. He tilted his head, studying her again. My mom. She looked at me one morning and said, Baby, your sister didn't make it out of that car. Don't let the rest of you stay there with her. His smile turned sad and soft. She said if I stopped laughing, that would break my sister's heart faster than the crash ever did. Silence stretched between them, thick and pulsing. Emily's vision went blurry. The break room warped at the edges. She set her cup down before her trembling hands dropped it. You okay? Jordan asked quietly. No, she said, before she could put her usual lie in place. The word fell out of her, small and startled. No, I'm not. He nodded once, like that was an answer he respected. Do you want me to shut up, or keep talking? A humourless half-smile tugged at her mouth. Do you always give people multiple-choice feelings? Hey, I work with dangerous machinery, he said gently. Consent is important. The laugh that escaped her was wetter this time, tangled with something that felt too close to a sob. My brother, she said suddenly, the words burning on the way out. He had this stupid laugh. He would wheeze so hard he'd kick the table. It drove me crazy. Her chest hitched. I haven't laughed like that since the night before since the hospital. Jordan didn't move closer, but his whole posture softened. He became less man, more shelter. You don't have to tell me anything else, he said. You don't owe me your story. I don't tell anyone, she said, voice cracking, because if I say it out loud, it's real again, and if it's real, then... Her eyes flooded. She bit down hard on her lip, trying to force the tears back. Then what? He asked, so quietly she almost didn't hear. Then I remember, she whispered, and remembering hurts more than being numb. He nodded slowly, like he'd expected that answer, like he'd given it himself once. For what it's worth, he said, numb isn't not hurting. It's just hurting alone. A tear broke loose, slipping hot down her cheek. Mortified, Emily turned her face away, swiping at it. I have a meeting in 15 minutes, she said, reaching for her old armour. I shouldn't be. Jordan tore a few paper towels from the dispenser and held them out without comment. She took them, pressing them under her eyes carefully, trying not to smudge her eyeliner. He didn't watch her cry. He looked out the small window instead, giving her the dignity of pretending he didn't see. After a moment, he cleared his throat. Okay, so... New emergency system. She blew out a shaky breath. What? He turned back with a lopsided smile. Whenever you feel the void creeping in, you come here. Or you find me. I tell you one truly terrible joke that makes you want to report me to HR. You are legally allowed to roll your eyes, groan, or walk away." "Legally?" she echoed, the word wobbling. "Yep, I'll draft a contract." He mimed signing something in the air. "Jordan Hayes agrees to be your designated joke dealer. Side effects may include involuntary snorts, softening of jawline, and mild reduction in existential dread." The image was ridiculous enough that her lip trembled into a smile. "And what do you get out of this arrangement?" she asked. He sobered, just a little. "I get to watch someone remember how to be alive again." His gaze held hers, steady and warm. "Feels like a good use of my break time." Something inside her cracked painfully, like ice shifting on a river. She wanted to say it was too much, that he didn't know what he was offering, that she couldn't afford to lean on anyone because losing them would kill her. Instead, what came out was, "Your jokes better be terrible." His grin returned, wide and immediate. "Oh, they will be. I have a reputation to uphold." Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a calendar notification for her meeting. She glanced at the time and swore under her breath. "I have to go," she said, gathering herself, smoothing a hand down the curve of her dress. "If I show up looking like I've been crying." "You look like you've been fighting," he said quietly, "and winning a little." She didn't know what to do with that, so she didn't do anything. Just turned toward the door. "Emily?" he called as she reached it. She looked back. "For the record," he said, "that laugh in here? The real one? You didn't betray anybody. You honored them." Her throat closed. She couldn't speak, so she just nodded once, sharply, and slipped out into the hallway. As she walked back to her desk, her heels clicking on the polished floor, she felt different, raw and exposed, like someone had peeled back a layer of her skin. But under the sting, there was something else. Not joy. Not yet. Just the faint, unfamiliar feeling that maybe, just maybe, being numb wasn't the only way to survive. 3 weeks later, the sticky note on Emily's monitor was soft around the edges from being touched. She'd stopped pretending she didn't look at it. The emergency joke system had become a thing. At first, she'd tested it cautiously, slipping into the break room once every few days, leaning against the counter with her arms folded tightly over the curve of her chest, giving him 10 seconds to make her forget how heavy she felt. He'd never wasted those seconds. "Why did the scarecrow get promoted?" he'd ask while cleaning filters or tightening screws. She'd sigh. "I don't know why. Because he was outstanding in his field." "It was terrible," she'd groaned. He'd grinned like he'd won the lottery. And somehow in the groan, her jaw loosened, her shoulders dropped half an inch, the tight band around her ribs eased. By week 2, she was showing up in the break room without pretending she just happened to be passing by. Jordan never called her out, but he always seemed to sense when she needed an interruption. Sometimes he was fixing a light fixture, sometimes labeling wires, sometimes leaning back on the counter with a mug in his hand like the room belonged to him. "How bad is it on the void scale?" he'd ask. 7, she'd say, or 9, but I'm ignoring it. He'd nod, serious, then say something like, "Okay, this calls for advanced level stupidity," and launch into a story about some catastrophic ladder incident, or the time the building's automated voice got stuck repeating, "Door is open," for 30 minutes, until even security wanted to throw hands. She never felt like he was trying to drag her somewhere she wasn't ready to go. He didn't push for her story again. Sometimes she offered little pieces anyway, like crumbs. "My brother used to email me memes during meetings," she murmured one afternoon, staring into her coffee. Jordan just smiled. "Sounds like he had taste." "Questionable taste," she corrected, "but he tried. Best kind." Other days, they didn't talk about grief at all. They argued about music. He insisted R&B was superior to her soft indie playlists. She insisted his favorite 90s tracks all sounded the same. "It's called consistency," he said, tapping his chest. "You marketing folks should respect the brand." She'd rolled her eyes so hard she worried they'd get stuck. But she'd gone home those nights feeling different. Still hurting. Still missing her brother so much her bones ached. But the numbness had cracked, letting in slivers of something that might be life. She wasn't sure she forgave herself for it yet. On a Thursday night near the end of the month, the building hummed quieter than usual. Most of the offices were dark, only a scattering of screens still glowing against the glass. The city outside pressed up against the windows in a splatter of light. Emily was one of the last people on the 20th floor. Her thick, curvy body protested the long hours, lower back aching, feet sore in high heels. But she ignored it, hunched over her keyboard, trying to ring one more joyful slogan from a brain that felt wrung out. A headache pulsed behind her eyes. She rubbed her temples and glanced at the time. 8:42 p.m. Go home, the rational part of her whispered. No one will die if you finish this tomorrow. But another voice, sharper and older, echoed her mother in the hospital hallway. Just be strong a little longer, Em. We can't fall apart now. She was so tired of being strong. The overhead lights flickered. She looked up, frowning. The fluorescent panels shivered, then settled. Don't you dare, she muttered at the ceiling. Jordan, I swear to. As if summoned, her phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. Stay put. Messing with your floor's circuits. Don't panic if it goes dark. Unknown number. Jordan. Facilities. Outstanding in my field, remember? She stared at the screen, then felt a laugh bubble up, small and startled. Of course he'd announce himself with a bad callback. She typed back before she could overthink it. Emily, I'm tense, not 90. I won't panic if it goes dark. Jordan, your browser history says otherwise. 17 tabs open on Holiday Joy Inspiration is a cry for help. Another laugh slipped out, this one louder. She glanced around the empty floor, suddenly grateful. No one was there to see the way her face softened. The lights flickered again, and this time they went out. The office plunged into darkness, save for the glow of her monitor and the city outside. Streetlights smeared across the glass, painting long stripes of gold and blue on the carpet. Okay, she said out loud, heart ticking faster. Not panicking, just mildly annoyed. A beam of warm light swung into view down the hall. Don't shoot, Jordan's voice called. It's just the electrician with a hero complex. He appeared in the doorway of her team's open-plan space, flashlight cutting a cone through the dark. The beam slid over her desk, catching the edges of her cream blazer, the round line of her hips in the chair, the pale shimmer of her legs crossed at the ankle. Hey, he said, relief softening his features. You're still here? I live here now, she deadpanned. I pay rent in push notifications. He chuckled, stepping inside. The flashlight made his broad shoulders look even bigger, the navy work jacket outlined against the dark. You mind if I kill the emergency lights for a minute? I've got to reset a breaker. It'll just be you, me, and your questionable life choices. She hesitated, then surprised herself. You mean keep me from having a full nervous breakdown alone in the dark? Sure, stick around. He gave a little mock bow. At your service. A few minutes later, the overhead emergency strips dimmed too, leaving the floor lit mostly by her screen and the city's glow. Jordan set his flashlight on her desk, angled upward, so the light bounced off the ceiling rather than her face. There, he said. Spooky, but romantic, she snorted. You know how many OSHA guidelines you're probably violating right now? Only the boring ones. He hopped up to sit on the edge of a neighbouring desk, long legs stretching out, boots crossed at the ankle. So, on a scale of 1 to staring into the void, where are we tonight? She stared at the half-finished tagline on her screen. Honestly, I think the void is staring into me. Oof, he winced. Okay, that's at least a 9. She turned in her chair to face him fully. In the dim, he looked softer somehow, less like the distractingly handsome guy who made broken things behave, more like the first real friend she'd allowed herself since the hospital. I keep waiting for it to stop, she said quietly. The guilt. Like there's going to be a day when I wake up and I don't feel like laughing means I left him on that hospital bed and walked out without turning back. He shifted, planting his elbows on his knees, leaning toward her, but not invading her space. Has it gotten any smaller? Even a little? She swallowed. Her throat felt tight. Some days, she admitted. When I'm here, with you, for a few minutes, it's like I'm not drowning. He nodded, something raw flickering across his face. Okay, so maybe it doesn't go away. Maybe it just learns to share the room. Silence stretched between them, thick and intimate. My sister used to say grief was like stepping on a Lego, he said after a moment. You're not aware of every Lego on the floor. You just keep walking until, bam. He clapped once. You hit one, you see stars. Emily huffed. That's weirdly accurate. She was good at metaphors, he said, smiling at the memory. But here's what she'd say if she saw you now. She'd be like, "Damn, Emily, you're really going to let the Lego decide your whole day." Against her will, her lips curved. He pressed on, emboldened. And then she'd probably trip over another one and swear for 5 minutes, but still. Point stands. Emily laughed, surprisingly hard. The sound rose up, warmed by the dark, rolling out of her like it had been waiting just behind her ribs. It shook her shoulders, tilted her head back, made her thick body move in a way that wasn't careful or controlled. Jordan watched, eyes shining, as if he'd just witnessed an eclipse. When the laugh sputtered out, she covered her mouth, breathless. Tears pricked her eyes, not just from humour, but from the shock of it, from how good it felt and how much it hurt at the same time. "I forgot," she whispered, voice breaking. "I forgot how that felt." He slid off the desk, standing now, but still keeping that small, respectful distance. "I didn't," he said softly. "I've been waiting for it." Her chest squeezed. "Why?" "Because," he said, "that laugh, that's not betrayal. That's proof he was here." He nodded at her, as if urging the words into her. "It's echo. It's legacy. Every time you laugh like that, you're dragging a little of him into the room with you." Her vision blurred completely. She pressed the heels of her hands to her eyes, but the tears slipped through anyway, hot tracks down her cheeks. He used to say my laugh sounded like I was trying to scare birds out of trees." Jordan's mouth curved. "Then this office is officially bird-free now." She choked on a helpless, watery giggle. "That was so stupid." "Told you," he said gently. "Advanced-level stupidity, contractually obligated." She dropped her hands, finally letting him see the mess. Smudged eyeliner, flushed cheeks, the curve of her mouth struggling between grief and something like relief. "Jordan," she said, his name tasting new and heavy in her mouth. "I'm scared that if I start really living again, I won't know how to stop, and then if something bad happens..." Her voice dropped. "I don't think I could survive losing everything twice." He inhaled slowly, like he was taking in the weight of that. "Can I tell you something maybe unpopular? Do I have a choice?" "Not really." He gave her a small, crooked smile. "You're already surviving losing him. Every day you show up here, every brief you write, every coffee you spill, that's you surviving. You've been doing it alone, in the dark." He nodded toward the windows. "You don't have to keep doing it that way." Her heart thudded so hard it almost hurt. "What are you saying?" she asked. "I'm saying," he said, voice low, "you deserve to have someone in the room when you hit the Lego. Someone who can hand you a bandage and a bad joke and sit with you while it stops hurting so much." The tears came again, softer this time. "You volunteering for the job?" He lifted one shoulder. "I mean, I've already got the paperwork ready. Designated joke dealer, official void distraction, amateur bird-scaring laugh fan club president." She barked out another laugh, the sound soaked in disbelief. "Is that your way of asking me out?" "Depends." His eyes held hers, steady and warm. "If I said, after this, maybe we don't just meet at the coffee machine. Maybe we try an actual coffee outside. No broken vending machines, no emergency lighting. Just you, me, and a table somewhere that doesn't smell like toner. Would you hear that as a date?" Her heart stuttered. The old fear screamed to shut it down, to stay safe, to keep her world small and manageable and numb. But another voice, quieter and stubborn, rose up under it. The one that had followed his jokes into the break room. The one that had let her laugh in the dark just now, even knowing it would hurt. She thought of her brother's wheezy laugh, how much he'd hated seeing her lonely. She thought of Jordan's sister, telling him not to leave the rest of himself in that crash. Maybe living wasn't betrayal. Maybe it was the only way to honor them both. "Yes," she said, the word small but clear. "I'd hear that as a date." Something lit up in his face, relief, joy, something boyish and unguarded that made her stomach flip. "Okay then," he said softly. "Can I walk you out tonight? Consider it a practice run, non-binding, lawyers optional." She smiled, really smiled, cheeks aching with the unfamiliar stretch. "You and your contracts. Look, I'm thorough." He tapped his chest. "Facilities. We read the fine print." He fixed the breaker a few minutes later, the overhead lights humming back to life, washing the room in flat corporate brightness. The spell of the dark never fully broke, though. It lingered in the way she stood a little closer to him as they rode the elevator down, in the way her shoulder brushed his arm and didn't immediately jerk away. In the lobby, he held the door open, cold night air spilling in. The city buzzed outside, headlights, honks, distant laughter from a bar down the street. "Still at a 9?" he asked quietly. She thought about it. "No," she said. "Maybe a 5.5, with potential." He grinned. "I can work with potential." As they stepped out into the night, her hand brushed his again. This time she let her fingers linger, just for a second. Jordan looked down at their hands, then up at her. "Careful," he teased. "That's how habits start." She laughed, full and warm, the sound rising above the traffic, and for the first time in a very long time, she didn't try to swallow it back. If it echoed anywhere beyond the street, up into hospital corridors that still haunted her or along roads where old crashes lived, she hoped the people she missed could hear it. "I'm still here," she thought. And as Jordan fell into step beside her, shoulder brushing hers, she realized she wasn't saying it alone anymore.